Who will be UFC champion by the end of 2024? So these are my predictions on who I think will be the champ at the end of the year. It is quite far into the year. We're in May, of course, but one of my friends was talking to me about this sort of video idea, and I actually thought I'd make it. I haven't made any videos before, but I thought I'd give it a go. So please give me some feedback in the comments. So let's jump into it. I'm going to start from the heavyweight division on who I think will be the champ at the end of the year. Heavyweight division, Jon Jones. Most likely will end as the champ and retire with the belt. He's just pretty inactive. I think like he said, he's only going to fight one more time, and most likely that will be against Stipe Miocic. And then he won't fight anymore and he'll relinquish the belt, but I just don't see him relinquishing it either straight away, or even if he does do that, then he's still like ended the year as the champ. I just think Jones will finish the year as the champ. I don't see him fighting Aspinall in particular. I think he will lose that matchup if he fought Aspinall. A lot of fans believe that Jon Jones would beat Aspinall, but it's just so hard to see. Aspinall is so big, so quick. He's got great grappling. I just think he would finish Jon Jones. Personally, on the feet, Jon Jones has quite overrated boxing in total. He'd have to rely solely on the grappling, to be, in my opinion. So that's it for the heavyweight division. We'll move on. Light heavyweight division, Alex Pereira. So, as crazy as it is to say, he's cleaned out the division for the most part, which is insane. He's only fought, a total of 3 times in this division, and he's beaten 3 former champions in Jamal Hill just recently, knocked him out first round, has beat Yuri via finish, and then beat Jan Blachowicz as well in his first, I believe, 205 debut. He's beaten 5 champions in his UFC run. He's beaten Israel Adesanya as well, and has also beaten Sean Strickland. The guy is insane. Definitely is a favorite fighter of mine now. Is a favorite fighter and so many people's fan favorites, so many people's fan favorite fighters. I just think no one can touch him on the feet in the division. So I just see him defending his belt at least one more time. I believe that will be against Magomed Ankalaev. But in saying that, a lot of people believe Magomed Ankalaev will beat him. I do not. I think Magomed Ankalaev will get finished in this fight. I think he's overhyped. Personally, for me, I just see Alex finishing him just because the guy does not grapple as much as people think. I've gone back, looked through when can you remember Magomed really grappling in his UFC stint so far. He's mostly been a stand-up guy, and if he decides to stand up against Alex, it's not going to go well. So I just think he'll finish Magomed, especially if Magomed decides to stand with him, and he'll end the year as the champ. So we can move on now to the middleweight division, and I think it will be Dricus du Plessis. So he will remain the champ at the end of the year. He will most likely fight Israel Adesanya. So I believe he'll most likely fight Israel Adesanya at the end of the year, or in a few months. And I think he beats Israel Adesanya at this point in his career. I think he's just coming into his own. He's shown some great performances, shown us that he's got 5-round cardio, especially against the Sean Strickland fight, which was a very close fight, of course, but did very well. And if he doesn't fight Adesanya, it'll be Hamzat, and that is definitely a matchup that I would need to think about a bit more thoroughly, but I just don't see that happening. I think he'll versus Israel Adesanya because they will want to do the African versus African champ storyline, and I just don't see Israel winning that fight. So we'll move on. Welterweight division, Leon Edwards. So he's been quite inactive, and he pretty much fights, once a year if you're lucky, maybe twice. And he's just too good on the feet, this guy. He's just fantastic. He's levels above a lot of these fighters, and I just don't see him losing. He's most likely going to fight Bilal sometime soon, and I just think some people believe Bilal will win, but I just think Bilal is a worse Usman. He doesn't have as good stand-up, and his wrestling. Leon Edwards is just so good. Did so well against Usman in comparison to defensive wrestling in that fight. I just think he'll be able to utilize it, and then beat Bilal in a 5-round domination or via TKO finish. So he really has no clear competition in this division, if I'm being fair. I think that Shavkat Rakhmonov is probably the only one that could contest him, really, and even then, it's close. I think Leon Edwards might be able to edge that out if he decides to verse Shavkat perhaps at the end of the year. I just think he might be able to nullify that grappling, and he's good enough in the stand-up to really win that matchup. So we'll move on. Lightweight division, Islam Makhachev. So this one, I think it's pretty easy for people to say Islam is levels above the competition in terms of grappling. He's got great striking, good clinch. I think he beats Dustin, of course. Like, so many people will believe that. I think the moment Dustin decides to jump for a guillotine, it's over already. So I hope that he doesn't do that in the matchup. I hope he tries to not grapple with Islam, because he's most likely going to be baited into that. The only real tough fight for Islam at this current point is probably the Arman rematch. Arman's looking good. He's got great hands. Obviously a good grappling matchup. If you saw the previous fight with Arman versus Islam, they're obviously tit for tat with the grappling. Islam is a little bit ahead. Of course, that's why he won the previous matchup. And most likely, I think he beats Leon Edwards, honestly, in a champ v champ fight. I just think that chain wrestling, well, in terms of this, how do you say, Dagestani style of fighting, Sambo, combat Sambo, I just think he will do quite well against Leon Edwards. So I would like to see that matchup. So if he does verse Leon Edwards perhaps by the end of the year, because I think that was something that they're talking about, then we might have to change this one to Islam Makhachev in the welterweight division. So yeah, he's beaten the who's who of this division in terms of beating Charles, because Charles has beaten everyone. So and beating Volkanovski, of course, as well. Let's move on. Featherweight division, Ilia Topuria. So this one was a hard one for me to think about. The guy's beaten Volkanovski, who's the featherweight goat of the division. I think he might be edging above Aldo currently right now in Volkanovski. So he's beaten the featherweight goat, looked great. Volkanovski looked great in the fight as well. Although people thought that it was coming back too early, he still looked good, and Ilia finished him. So one of the greatest right hands in the sport, this guy. He's got some slick boxing, and it's not just like Josh Emmett in terms of winging hooks and just powerful slugs. You know, it's a very precise puncher, and when it hits you, you're going out, right? So I think he beats most of the division. I don't see him losing to anyone in particular. The only matchups that are interesting specifically for me would be O'Malley and Max Holloway, which are very close to me. This is why it was very hard. But in the end, I think that he might be a little bit too much for O'Malley, and I can see him beating Max Holloway, even though Max is actually my favorite fighter in the entire UFC. He's number one on the list for me. But I would see him winning that. But yeah, I see him being the champ until the end of the year. So we move on. Bantamweight division, Sugar Sean O'Malley. So I think he knocks out Merab. So initially I thought that Merab might just wrestle him into the ground. But this was before the Cheeto fight, and it was before I had a good look at O'Malley's background, look at Merab's full fight list as well, and I just don't see it. I just see Merab as getting rocked by the same punches in a couple of the fights that I've seen him in. I just see him not really having those takedowns. Like his ability to shoot for the takedown is quite good, but is he actually getting the takedowns? If everyone saw that Aldo fight, he might have failed like 100 takedowns basically on Aldo. He's still shot for it. The guy's got cardio for days, but is he completing them with some success? So I just believe Sean will be able to stuff the takedowns, be able to piece him up on the feet, and then find the knockout shot in the fight. So he is one of the craziest strikers in UFC history. And I also believe if he fights Sandhagen by the end of the year, so if he fights Merab sometime soon, in like 2-3 months, then fights Corey by the end of the year, I think that he beats Corey as well. I think Corey's fantastic, he's great on the feet, but Sugar might be one of the best strikers that we've ever seen in UFC history or in combat sports in general. So, very interesting. Flyweight division. This one is going to throw a lot of people off. I actually have seen a couple people pick Steve Erceg, but he's an underdog for a reason. Pantoja is quite good. But in saying that, the fight's currently close. It's happening sometime soon. By the time this video goes up, it might be the day before when the fight happens. But I think Steve can pull it off. He's quite good. He's got great stand-up. I think his stand-up is better than Pantoja's, but I think it will be a close fight. He's got, like I said, he's got great hands. They both have very solid chins as well. And I can just see him winning. Not necessarily by finish. It could happen, but I just see him keeping it standing and then potentially winning a decision here. End of the year will most likely be a rematch with Pantoja or a fight with Royval. And if he wins this one via knockout or via decision, most likely he'll win the rematch. So we'll see how that goes. And with Royval, that's a close fight as well. So all of these are close fights, but we're going to stick with Steve Erceg for this, which is a pretty big underdog. So this one is a bit of a fantasy matchup here. There was a big talk about potentially doing a 165-pound division. So that would be about super lightweight. So between 170 and 155. And in all honesty, I thought it may happen just because they would want McGregor to headline a card. And then they would move up the 170 division to go to 175. But like I said, it's a fantasy matchup. Most likely won't happen. But if it did happen, who I would pick to win this fight and be the champ of that new division would be Michael Chandler. So I think personally, McGregor's had too much time off. Michael's been more active. He's also shown in the gym more. I think McGregor's just too chill. He's too chillaxed. The guy's gone all the time. You see him on either Instagram or whatever video you see him on the news outlet, the guy's going off. So I just think Chandler KOs McGregor. It's going to be a out cold KO most likely. And he's just not as light on his feet as he used to be. He is too heavy. And he just does not move the exact same way, and he's been getting hit a lot more in his fights. So I just think Michael Chandler can really get to him in this fight. So bit of a fantasy one, but we'll move on. We're moving on to the women's bantamweight division. So these will be the women's divisions from here on. Kayla Harrison, she will be a champ and stay a champ for a while, is what I've written here. So she's just so good. She's so good, and she's a genetic freak. She's crazy strong. You can see just by the photo here, she just is the most muscly individual that I've seen at one bantamweight division 135, you know. So and that's including men, honestly. Like, look how muscly she looks. It's ridiculous. She looks like copy and pasted from Song Yadong or something right now. And she looked great in her fight with Holly Holm not too long ago. So I just think that there's no one's going to be able to contest her, especially Juliana Pena will not be able to stand a chance with her, I'll be honest. And I don't think Raquel Pennington either. I think Kayla Harrison will win these fights. So, yeah, I think she'll be the champ by the end of the year if they give her that title shot. Valentina Shevchenko for women's flyweight division. So, a trilogy with Grasso's incoming. I think they're going to be the coaches on, I believe it's the Ultimate Fighter or Tough or whatever. They're going to be the coaches for that. I think she wins against Grasso. She's been doing well against Grasso. She was winning, I think, in the first fight as well. Then the last fight was a draw. And I think she's overall more skilled than 95% of the female fighters in this division. She's beaten the who's who of the division so far. And I think once she beats Grasso in this fight, I don't see her losing to anyone before the end of the year. I hope that they do not do another fight. So I wouldn't want to see a quadrilogy, just because it holds up the division so much. I didn't appreciate the quadrilogy when it happened with Brandon Moreno and Figueiredo either, even though I enjoyed those fights. But yeah, I don't want to see it get held up. So I just think that if she versus anyone else but Alexa Grasso, it's pretty guaranteed that she's going to win at this point. So we move on. Last but not least, we've got women's strawweight division. So here, Zhang Weili, pretty safe pick. She just defended her belt against Xiaonan. So she's just too good on the ground for everyone else in the division. She beats all the top fighters, which she's already done pretty much in the division. And I think she beats Rose again if they decide to give her another fight with Rose. And when I say beats Rose again, I mean when she fights Rose again, she will beat her. I think that the last fight was quite close. I think scoring it live, I remember edging it to Zhang Weili. But I didn't argue with the decision. I didn't think it was a robbery or anything like that. I just thought it was a close fight. So I can see a argument for the 3-2 towards Nama Yunus. So just overall, she's a fan favorite. I do like Zhang Weili as well. I want to see her be the champ, and I do believe she'll be able to do so. So, yeah. So, guys, that wraps up the video. So, I appreciate everyone for watching. Let me know in the comments if you want to see a certain type of video made by me. And if you did enjoy the video, please let me know down below, or give the video a like. And thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.